welcome to our show, In the Moment. My name is Keith Allen, with my co-host and partner in crime, Diogene Brown. Whoop, whoop. And my main man behind the sticks, Pedro, Last Supper Productions. What's up, brother? How you doing?
What's going on?
Last Supper.
I'm excited today, man. We got our guy in the building. I cannot believe it. He is here, ladies and gentlemen. He accepted the invitation, and he is here. Okay, that's the first miracle. Praise the Lord, because his brother's busy. Okay, Justin Grooms in the house. Woo! Corporate and consultant, just really big on leadership, writer, author, motivational speaker, has such a heart for the community, for purpose, just really an intellectual guy, a deep thinker. And so the fact that he's on this episode, it means that you are in for a special treat today. So again, In the Moment is about teaching people how to enjoy everyday life from a faith-based perspective, because so many of us, as I say, all the time, so many of us are living to experience some big breakthrough in order to be happy. When God has called this special day, called right now, called today for you to be happy. There's people, as we know, that did not wake up today. Unfortunately, there were some people that had their last breath yesterday. And so no matter what, I feel like sometimes we're waiting on things to happen. And God is like, no, I've given you something miraculous, and it's called breath. I've given you air. I've given you life. I've given you purpose. Today is the day to have joy and to have peace. So, man, Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you having me.
Man,
This is exciting for me. Like it's been a while since we've been talking about doing this, so yeah. I'm glad we could make it happen, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, man, you traveling the world, man. So I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah. So I got a little bitty podcast that I do called Wrapped in Skin. It's it's the title of my book that we'll probably talk about at some point. But I was just telling these guys it's like I'm out here guerrilla with it. It's just a camera and a mic. The mic maybe works sometimes, kinda. But yeah, man, it's an opportunity for me to kind of connect with God weekly, because I put the episode out weekly, so it helps me get in the Word, get in meditation, to get revelation about what I'm supposed to talk about. So, yeah, man, it's good. I've been getting good feedback, helping some people.
That's great. That's great. Well, before we get into your story, and we're gonna talk about some stuff today. I'm telling y'all, you guys are gonna be blessed today. You better watch the whole thing because it's about to be amazing. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about the premise of your podcast, and then also just the premise of your book. I read your book, Wrapped in Skin. I mean, it's deep.
Yeah,
it really points people who do not understand their purpose or how to get to their purpose. It points them in the direction to find it. Yeah.
Man. That's what the podcast is about, really. It's about unpacking this idea of being a spiritual being, having a human experience, and what that means. Like, why do we exist? Why do we live on this planet? I'm huge on purpose. I've been kind of exploring purpose since I was about 13, 14 years old. And one of my giftings is helping people get on that path, to start to identify what it is that they are here to do, specifically with youth. And we'll talk about passionate work and that program that I do with the youth. But the podcast is just that, man. We talk about real world issues, but it all relates to how does that intertwine and interconnect with the reason for which you exist. So it's everything from relationships to business to biblical principles that may or may not be understood. Yeah. So yeah, man, it's just me, because I've been through or am currently going through.
Yeah. Talk about your book. I know obviously the podcast is based on it, but when you read your book, Wrapped in Skin, first of all, where can people find that book?
You can get it on Amazon. I've got a website that I'm sure you guys can link. Okay. In the bottom. Barnes and Noble. Actually has. You can order it. You probably can't pick it up in store, but you can order it. Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Nobles, you doing big things.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought something was going. I thought you come by my house. I
got some I got some at the crib. There's some bootleggers out there who probably selling some too.
And you got to do it each and every way you can. Yeah. So someone that is trying to figure out, and I want to get into your story because it's going to speak to some people for sure. Yeah. But someone that is trying to figure out right now, listen, they they have their success, right? Maybe they are married. Maybe they're not married. Maybe they have a family. Maybe they don't have any kids. Maybe they're in school or out of school or successful in their career, or maybe they're jobless right now. There's so many different types of people that are walking down so many different paths, regardless of what they have or what they don't have. People are looking for something called purpose. What's something about your book that really pushes people in the direction of how to discover your purpose?
Yeah. That's true. I mean, I think we're humans. We're always looking for reasons, like why we think certain ways, why we behave certain ways. So that's never going to end. And I think that exploration is going to go on forever, your entire life, right?
True.
So whatever you're looking for, I think what the book does, it's partially autobiographical. So it's a lot about my own personal journey and personal story. There's 16 morning and evening meditations, and those meditations kind of help solidify the principles in each chapter. So when you read the principles, then you can meditate on the principles, and it's just like a guided meditation. But I think, again, I can't stress this enough, this idea that you're a spiritual being inside of a vehicle. And I like to use analogies. The way I equate this is, if you imagine this body as a vehicle, your spirit was put inside of this vehicle. And when you got inside the vehicle, you had some gifts that you brought with you. And as you're traveling down your path of life, the goal is to distribute your gifts where you see fit, right? And first of all, you have to identify that you have these gifts. Then you have to know where to deploy those and be confident enough to deploy those gifts. So the book kind of gets you in that mindset of, again, separating your spirit from your body or spirit from your flesh, and understanding that you have some gifts and that where they're needed, and they're going to be needed throughout the course of your life, you just have to find out where to deploy those and be confident in them. So just that mindset of being in a vehicle and traveling down your path of life.
That altogether is purpose, because, the opposite of purpose is purposeless. Like outside of purpose is, everything is a coincidence. Like,
I tell people this all the time. Like, to say you don't have a purpose is like,
it's deep.
And this is we'll go. This is probably a little bit deeper than we want to go to right now. But I think a lot of us, even Christians, particularly Christians, we live to get to heaven, and it's like God would have kept you in the spirit form if He didn't want you to be here to do something. So sometimes we need to refocus. We're focused on the next life or the afterlife, and not focus on this life.
And to add to that, if God would take you right now,
100%. The only reason you're still breathing. Yeah, that's right. Purpose. Yeah.
And let's talk about your story, man. A little bit, because it's gonna hit a few people.
Yeah, man. I was raised in a traditional Southern Baptist household. Single mom. My parents separated when I was 4 years old, so they didn't get divorced because it was too expensive. So it was like, we ain't got to be together. But
I'm sure some people got that story.
Yeah, it was like my pops lived like 3 blocks away. I'm from a small town in Kentucky, and my parents.
What town?
It's called Princeton. It's about
Princeton.
Princeton. It's about an hour and a half north of Nashville. Yeah. Okay. So it's right on the southwestern corner of the state. So my mom and dad grew up together. Known each other forever. Most people in my community kind of, born, raised, stayed, lived, died in that community.
Gotcha.
So separated when I was 4. So I live with my mom primarily, and I talk about this in the book. I didn't have a bad relationship with my dad, but it wasn't a father-son relationship.
What do you mean?
So when I was probably 8, at this point my dad had reneged on like not 8, but like 3 promises for Christmas gifts. Like 3 years in a row. It's like, I'm gonna get you this, and I'm waiting on the gifts, and it's like,
I'm so sorry.
but no. But let me tell you.
But the thing is, the brother lived 3 blocks away. So did you say, Pops, like,
because I wasn't. I guess I had an expectation.
Dude, laugh.
That's a deeper story for another day.
That's pretty deep.
But what I realized is that I had everything I needed from my mom, but it was that 1 or 2 gifts that I expected from my dad that was really important. So after about 3 years of not getting it, you know what I mean? After about 3 years of not getting it, I was like, all right, it is what it is, all right? So one day, I'm playing a video game. I'm in like the den. I'm playing a video game. Actually playing Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay. Hey.
And
shout out to Sonic.
and my mom's sitting on the porch. My dad walks by, and he's like, "Is Justin inside?" And I heard her say, "Yeah, he's in there." And apparently, he starts to walk down the driveway towards the house.
So before you even go any
Yeah,
further,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I know I'm still trying to process like the 3 years in a row,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
gift for Christmas.
Yeah.
You saw him. You had to see him, right? You didn't just did you? Is it 3 years later now? You haven't seen him? Have
No,
you seen
no.
him? Have you used to have a relationship with him during this time?
I mean, I was like 5, 6, 7 years old. So it was
Okay.
I didn't really know what a relationship was.
Got you. But as a 5-year-old, you held on to that like.
Yeah. I mean, I think because again, my mom did a great job of not making me feel like I lacked anything. So it really just became more about the principle of it. You know, I didn't know how to articulate that at 5, 6, 7 years old.
Sure.
But then after about 3 years, it's like, all right, this dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
you're 7 years old, looking him up and down like.
yeah. And I also have an older brother who's 7.5 years older than me, so I didn't lack a male presence in my life. You know what I mean?
That helps a lot.
So he's walking down her driveway, and she's like, "What you doing?" He said, "You say he's in the house." I said, "He's in my house. What you doing?" Last time I checked, you paid no bills in here.
You're hearing this whole conversation.
Yeah, I'm in the den with the window up, you know, and so I'm still playing the game. So she said, "I'll go get him." So she comes in the house and she says to me, she's like, "Your dad's outside." I keep playing the game. And she was like, I said, "Your dad's outside." And I said, "So?" Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, we on the same team. Neither one of us like this
I heard
dude.
what you just
know
said.
what I mean? And she's like, "Pause the game." And I'm like, "Oh, man." And she said, "Let me tell you something. That dude outside, I may not ever get along with him, but that ain't got nothing to do with you. He's your father. Don't ever let me hear you disrespect him. Now go outside and talk to your daddy." Now, from that point on, I realized that the relationship was not really about me as much, or it was not really about whether or not I liked him or had a relationship with him. For him, it was more about me. It was so I could, develop a relationship, learn what it looked like to have a father, all that stuff. And she was so selfless that as much as she hated him, she was like, "You need this relationship. You're a young man. You think, I know this is my dad, so I'm gonna look like him, I'm gonna walk like him, I'm gonna act like him, I'm gonna be like." So if you hear your mom constantly saying, "This dude ain't," and you just like him, then you internalize that. And somewhere deep down in your subconscious, you start to become that.
And then become angry at becoming that.
You know, that's really interesting. It really speaks a lot about the character of your mom. You know, and the woman of God she is. You know, because I have friends today. I mean, maybe y'all can relate. I don't know, but I got friends today that haven't seen their dad since they were a child, and they're like almost 40 years old. And the internalization of the anger of them not being there for them when they were younger, they hold on to it like it's, a part of who they are, and a lot of it is shared with their mothers, so there's people that I know that.
Bro, it's motivational speakers out there. Which I don't like that word. It's motivational speakers out there and people who constantly are talking about the trauma they experienced with their father. Like they still have not gotten over it, which I guess it's good to talk about it, right? But at a certain point, man, you gotta heal from that thing.
And I think trauma is one thing, and I think honor is another thing. And although it's like no one is saying don't be hurt, no one is saying, hey, you still have those emotions. But I love what your mother did. Your mother made you honor him. Yeah. Like that is a part of, that's just a part of like who we are, you know what I mean, and how God has created us. We honor him, you know. And I think honoring the father, even if he wasn't there, even if he had mistakes or flaws or this and that, like that was a true powerful, game-changing thing that your mom taught you to do at an early age.
Yeah, because she knew it wasn't about him or her. It was about me. Like she couldn't, if she didn't do that so she could help him have a relationship with me. She did that so she could help me have a relationship with him, which is different.
Yeah.
Her love for me overrode anything that her feelings she had towards him. So
Yeah.
she could have been like, yeah, I don't like him. To your point, I'm gonna withhold something that's important to him to get back at him. But she knew that ultimately that was gonna hurt you.
Yeah, because so many people's spite towards other people becomes another person's trauma.
That's
it.
Because I grew up in not the same type of, but my parents were never together, my mom and dad. But my mom never kept me away from my dad. Like, my dad was in the military. When he moved, she was like, yeah, take him. Like, he needs to be with you. And
Now, she wasn't going to do
said,
that.
Take him, because I ain't going to raise him.
No, not like in a negative way, but like to understand that like it's so important for me to have him in my life and to have a great relationship. I have a great relationship with all my family. And hearing your story and it sounded like my mom is just like that sacrifice that they made, and we don't know how that really made them feel on the inside. It could have tore them up for all we know.
Yeah.
And then to me, that just shows, like he was saying, like making sure that we knew to honor our father.
Right.
So getting back to your story, your father starts seeing you in the newspapers and
yeah, well, you know, that even took a while. Here's what really happened, and you know this. So what really happened that really got our relationship closer is that my mom passed away when I was 14. So,
wow.
You know, that night, my dad came. I don't even know who called him, but he came. My grandmother was there, but he came over and was like literally the only person who consoled me that day, because my brother was in college, so we didn't. You know, he couldn't get there in time, and it was just like that was the moment I realized, man, whether I like it or not, this dude is. You know, this is really outside of my grandmother, the person I need to lean on right now.
So you're a freshman in high school.
Freshman, going first semester, first 1 month into my freshman year.
And your mom is your world.
Yeah.
How did she pass?
She had a heart condition that I didn't know about. I don't know. A couple people in my family did, but she was just experiencing some like chest pain. Here's another thing about we know this as Black people, but the medical healthcare industry, right? So she went to the hospital. It was like, yeah, it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong, but they ain't running any tests.
That's happened to my dad, yeah.
And then she went back again because her best friend said, you need to go back and get checked out again. Back to the same hospital. I was like, nah, it's probably just like what they call angina, which is basically gas or whatever. And sent her back home later at night. Yep. When I called my grandmother, and here's how I knew my mom knew something was wrong, because she called my grandma to come stay with her. I think she was calling my grandmother because she wanted my grandmother to be there if something happened to her, so she could be with me, you know. So it was that kind of foresight, and I can't explain this, but my mom knew what was happening. Like, she knew what was going to happen. I got a living Bible right now that I gave to her when I was 11 years old. I keep that Bible with me to this day, because when I open it up, there's inevitably something in there highlighted or underlined that I didn't highlight or underline. She did, that I need. It never fails. Like, there's stuff in there, I'm telling you.
So you still connected to her.
100%. Yeah. I gave her this Bible in 93, and I still got it to this day. Yeah.
Man.
So
obviously going through that in ninth grade. Look, man, I know if I had went through that ninth grade, whoo, high school, bye.
Look, man,
y'all ain't gonna see me.
It is
like,
about
I got to figure my life out.
It is about it ain't about. Look,
I'm out.
Another thing that we don't talk about in our communities is depression. Right, I was clinically depressed for probably 20 years. When I not diagnosed, never went to a therapist or anything to tell me I was clinically depressed. But when I look at like what that means to be depressed, I had all the signs, man. I wouldn't say I was suicidal, but I didn't care if I lived or died for at least 4 years, like all through high school, honestly. And there's people who went to high school with me who wouldn't even know this, but it was Bone Thugs had this song, Crossroads.
Oh, I remember that song.
And there was a part in it. I knew the whole song. There was a part in it that said, "I don't want to die," and I would recite every lyric and skip over that. Wow. Yeah, because I did. I was like, and so it's really literally by the grace of God that, and my grandmother, my aunts, my brother, that I wasn't dead or in jail through that time, and sports.
So one of the things, because I kind of want to stay on this just for a little bit. Your mom instilled into you a seed of honor, you know, of honoring your word and honoring, you know, your elders and just honor. You're an honorable person, you know, and I know that I know that comes from the seed of your mom, you know. And one of the things that I know you told me about off camera was that, you know, she went to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
And you weren't really fond of the church thing, right? Or did you go? You had to go, or what?
No, I was. I mean, I was fond. I was fond because that's all I knew. I was 7 years old when I got baptized. I got baptized, or I went up to the altar during revival because this was the first time I felt a move of God that I couldn't articulate, didn't know what it was. I'm 7 years old. I'm sitting in the church, and they open the doors of the church, sitting beside my mom, and I don't know, I just felt something. It was like, get up. I didn't hear it audibly, and I got up. My mom looks at me like, what are you doing? I said, I think I'm supposed to go down front. And she was like, all right. I went down front. Pastor asked me, you know, son, what are you doing up here? And I said, well, I want to accept whatever I was taught in Sunday school. I want to accept Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior. He died for my sins. I want to give my life to him. And he said, do you know what that means? And I said, yes, sir. I didn't know what it meant. and so I got baptized at 7. I was born and raised in church. I was in church, you know, Sunday school. My mom was a Sunday school teacher, Sunday school superintendent. She sang in the choir, so we sang in the choir. We went to Bible competitions in the summertime.
He was like, dang.
I was a church kid, man.
Okay.
I was a church kid.
You took that to the next level. You said field trips and
No, we used to compete.
Hold on. Bible competitions?
Yeah, let me tell you. So the first gift I discovered was through those competitions because we would have Bible quizzes. But I was participating in an essay competition. So I would write essays about.
What were the topics?
It depends. So whatever the topics were, some biblical topic. It could be anything.
I'm just trying to think about the whole prep.
You didn't grow up in church, huh?
No, I did.
You ain't never do that?
No.
I grew up in church too, brother, but that's a whole nother for me. I don't know.
Well, you grew up in church out here. See, I'm from the South.
Yeah,
man.
that's true.
I'm from the Bible Belt.
I just picture a bunch of people at church getting so mad at somebody missing the answer.
Well, it's not. Listen, man, you're not doing it during church service, man. This is Saturday.
We drove all the way down here. You forgot who King David's son was? We rehearsed it. Come on, man. We
rehearsed it.
Spent hours studying. Like, come on, Stacy.
Yeah. But so I grew up in the church.
One of the things I wanted to get to was, and I thought this was very remarkable for a 14-year-old that just loses his mother, but when your mom passed away as she did and you're in this new season, one of the things that kept you going, because look, a lot of us and a lot of people would turn to drugs, like especially you a teenager, like I'm getting high every day, like I'm staying high, you know, like or worse, you know, I'm going to some stronger stuff, you know, or you know, getting, you know, losing themselves with the opposite sex or some people with the same sex. You know, people just getting lost, you know, trying to find love in the wrong places and getting themselves into bondage and getting themselves out there, gangs, whatever. But what helped you continue to stay on the path that God had for you was that you honored your mom by going to church every Sunday.
Yeah, man, I was like a robot, man. I went to church every Sunday because I thought if I missed a Sunday, it was dishonoring my mom. I wasn't, listen, now, as an adult man now, looking back, I did retain a lot of the stuff I heard in church. But I was zoned out in church, man. I was just, it was just in the pew.
You were just there.
Just there. I was like, I got to go. So I went. And that was it, man. I didn't engage much. I was just.
And what pushed you to go every week?
It was just that, because I would wake up and be like, oh, man, I got to go. It's because I would think to myself, if my mom was here, I'd be in church. Yeah. So I just tried to continue to do as many of the things that I thought would be happening if she was still here, which meant I had to get good grades. I had to show up to practice on time. I had to play well. I had to, all that stuff that she wanted me to do, and she made clear that she wanted me to do. I continue to do it.
And to be able to do that at that age, and to be able to kind of have that, that understanding and that state of mind, like that was very mature.
Yeah,
I don't 14-year-old.
I don't see it that way. I guess it was, but I don't see it that way. What I see it is, it was more like a grasping to stay connected to who she was.
Yeah, I understand.
So it was less about, I wasn't doing it for me. I was doing it because I wanted to have a sense of connection with her.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm just gonna just kind of say this for an example that really relates to me. My dad, when he was alive, I would go over the house all the time, and my mom and they have a dog, a big dog.
Yeah.
And he walks his dog. The dog's name is Kobe, after Kobe Bryant. And my dad would walk Kobe every single night. And sometimes I go over and I'll visit. He'd be like, "Hey man, can you walk Kobe for me?" I'm like, "Dad, I ain't trying to walk that dog. Like, I'm not trying, it's a big old dog, and he barks at everybody, and I'm like, I'm not trying to walk it. Stressful. I'm not walking it. So he would so if I walked the dog for my dad, it was a very big deal because it was like, I don't feel like walking him around the neighborhood, you know?
Yeah.
And so when he passed, it hit me, and I said, who's gonna walk Kobe now? And so now I go over there every week, and I walk him. And when I walk him, and I walk the same route that my dad would walk him, it now it's a place of connection with my dad.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. That's honestly what it was, man. It was even like getting good. I turned down a few scholarships to play football. And I convinced myself probably for 10 years after that the reason I turned these scholarships down is because I was burned out on football. Now, I was kind of burned out on football, but that really wasn't the reason. The reason was because I didn't want to be a guy who people looked at and was like, oh, you went to college because you were on the football scholarship. I wanted to prove to people that I could go get to college on my academic merit. And so took an academic scholarship, went to college, and I didn't realize this until I was like 28, 29. Like, that's really the reason why I turned down those scholarships. Was because my mom had told me in 6th grade, I was in 6th grade, and she said randomly one day, she was like, if you want to go to college, you're going to have to help me pay for it. I was like, what you mean? Look at my pockets. Like, what you mean? She said, you're going to have to get good grades, get scholarships, and it stuck. I was like, oh. So when it came time I had to prove that not only to myself, but for her, that I could do that from my mental capacity.
Good. Yeah. That's good. So I know you had some, on your journey, because I really want to get to the place where, we help people and talk about, okay, how do you live in the moment with the situation? But before we get there, though, it wasn't over yet in your life with people who were close to you not there anymore, not being there,
a lot of loss, man.
Can you kind of go into that?
Yeah, man. So I think I was like 21. I was in college, and I had this best friend named Brandon. I mean, he was like a brother to me. He was at my house more than he was at his house. Him and his little brother were at my house more than they were at their house. We grew up together. But he was, he's hard to explain, man. Like, he was an enigma, honestly, because not a naturally attractive dude, but had so much charisma. When I tell you, like, it's people who know Brandon will say this, man. Like, could pull any girl, and you look at me like, how is this possible?
Swag go a long way,
man. So much charisma, incredible athlete, but just kind of wayward. Just really didn't have enough structure in his life. So he ended up failing a grade, was behind me in school from the time we was like 1st, 2nd grade. He failed. So he was a grade behind me. So when I graduated, went to college, he was a senior in high school. So I remember I go home because it's graduation. I'm like, oh, I'm going to see my boy graduate. So I go home and I call him like, yo, what time is graduation? He told me what time it was. He said, can I get a ride with you? I was like, dog, I'm not trying to go that soon. Like, you got to be there early. He was like, nah, I'm not walking. I was like, what? I came home from college to see you walk. He's like, nah, I got to go to summer school. I said, but you still want to go to the graduation? He was like, yeah. So he went with me to the graduation and watched everybody else graduate. But ended up, staying at the crib. And long story short, I go home one weekend. We're hanging out. And then I'm about to go back to college. And he's like, yo, man, walk around the block with me. Yeah, he's got a bottle of Crown. He's like, yo, walk around the block with me. Let's drink a little bit. I'm like, cool, I got about an hour. So we walking and talking, just, and I leave. That next Tuesday, my aunt called me while I'm at work. And she called my job. I was working at Walmart. She called my job. What's she calling my job for? And she called twice. And I'm like, something's up. And she called me and said that he'd been killed in a car wreck, like a few days before his 21st birthday. So just like that, gone. I remember one time we were sitting on the curb, and he tells me, I don't know why we were talking about this, but he's like, man, I wonder what we're going to look like when we're like 25 years old. I was like, you still going to be ugly. And, yeah, he didn't see it. Never made it to 25, man. So that was the, outside of my mom, that was the next, like, big loss. And kind of gave me a sense of, man, this thing ain't promised.
Yeah.
We got to make the most of every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Because, you see somebody like that who was charismatic, could literally do anything.
Yeah.
Had his whole life ahead of him. Gone. Just like that. Yeah.
And then you kind of bounce back and you live in your life. And I know that there was other people in your family you got really connected with. I think it was your aunt or.
Yeah, my aunt passed away later on, like 2010. My aunt passed away. I had moved to LA. This was the first stint in LA when I was, focused on the acting thing. And I remember calling her one time. I was like, yeah, I think I need to come back home. She was like, what you talking about? I said, I don't know. I'm just out here like struggling. And I feel like I need to be, I was always.
Was she kind of like a mom to you?
Yeah, she was my youngest. She was my youngest aunt. But she was also closest to me and my brother because she was closest in age, so she could relate.
Okay.
And she called me. She was like, so I called her. I was like, yeah, I'm coming. I was always the person, besides her, I was the person in our family who was like the rock of the family, My grandmother was the rock, but we were always the people who were getting people together, doing stuff for everybody else. And I said, yeah, I need to be back home. She was like, no, you need to be doing what God got you out there doing. And I'm thinking to myself, I ain't doing nothing that God got me out here doing. You don't even understand. But yeah, she told me. So she was actually the one who didn't allow me to leave LA at that time because she knew there was some things I still needed to experience. And then later that year, she passed away. Yeah, totally unexpected. Like passed away. So that was 2010. At this point, I'm already an adult, but still not. That's why I say you can be old enough, like you can be an adult and not be mature.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I was an adult, but I wasn't emotionally mature. I wasn't spiritually mature. And this is coming from someone, again, who was raised in the church, right? So it doesn't matter how much you know about God. It is how much you allow God to know about you.
But something that's important, the idea that somebody says, no, don't come back, I think is so important to a person's growth. Because so like today, in today's world, when you're just hit with like adversity, you get so much comfort. But the comfort is to bring you back into this safe space. Not just to comfort you through words and tell you to keep going. It's more like, oh no, just come back home. Just come back home. And then I see people later on in their life being miserable because they felt like they should have just stuck it out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's case by case, man.
Yeah, obviously, yes, it is case by case.
It's everybody's situation is a little different, but yeah, man, I think for me, I just didn't have any, and this is kind of probably what we want to get to. I didn't have a real counselor, and the real counselor I'm talking about is the Holy Spirit.
Yeah,
it was available, always been available to me. Mm-hmm. I just had not invited it into my life.
Yeah.
So when I was going through situations in LA where I'm like, should I be here? Should I not be here? If I was getting any type of communication from the Holy Spirit, I didn't trust it.
Yeah.
Because if I don't know you and you tell me something, I'm like, yeah, all right, it sounds good, but I don't know if I believe it. And so when I was getting, kind of feedback from the moves of the Holy Spirit about what to do, I didn't trust it. So it just confused me more.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know if it was my mind. I didn't know. So I'm talking about, so I'm talking to people like, what should I do? And they're saying, look, you got to do what you feel like God has purposed you to do. But I didn't have a close enough relationship to realize what that was. I didn't know what God wanted me to do. So what the decisions I was making was on my own recognizances. I was leaving it up to my intellect to figure out what I wanted to do. And the problem with that is that my intellect is only as good as the present.
That's real.
I have no idea what tomorrow is going to be.
Yeah. So you're in LA, man. You've been through so much at this point. Losses.
Oh, and by the way, I lost my best friend top of 2010 from college. My boy from college. So I'd been out in LA 2 weeks. Got a call that he playing basketball. After basketball, was like feeling nauseous. Found out blood clot had traveled to his lungs or his heart, and this is a dude didn't drink, didn't smoke, none of that. Further confirmation, this life can be over like that, man. He was 30 years old.
Jesus.
Yeah. Jesus. So that was 2010. Then my aunt passed away at the end of 2010. Yeah.
So how have you, what was the process like for you? I mean, obviously, I know you obviously went through depression, you did different things, but looking back, what are some ways, because people that have experienced loss and disappointment and family members, I've had people that have lost people close to them as well, and it sometimes it takes years for people to get healing. The day-to-day thing. What are some what's some wisdom for some people, man, that have gone through, similar situations like you, to kind of stay on course and to keep their eyes on the prize of their purpose?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna tell you, if you ain't tapped into the fact that you have a purpose, it's almost impossible, man, when you go through stuff. That's kind of what kept me focused, and I wasn't focused all the time. I was just like, man, God, that footprints in the sand poem, is real. It is real.
For some people that don't know that, what is the footprints?
Footprints in the sand was God's having a conversation with someone, and then God says, I'm always with you. And I'm butchering this, but I'm always with you. And the person, you see the two sets of footprints in the sand. I'm always walking with you. And then the person says to God, well, what about the times where I see there's only one set of footprints? Like those are my toughest times. And so clearly you weren't with me. There's only one set of footprints. And God says that those are the times that I carried you. And that for me is so true, because if I look over those, there's some years where I'm like, I really don't even recall years, like, for whatever reason. And to see how you get through those times is like, yeah, there's no way I would have got through them if I was responsible to do it on my own and under my own power.
Wow.
So,
So
if you don't understand you have a purpose, but also if you haven't started to develop a foundational relationship with God, it's going to be very difficult to get through those times.
Yeah.
If people don't know God and you deal with that much trauma, man.
But even if you do know God, I love the footprints, the footprints story, because you could experience loss like the way you've experienced loss, and sudden disappointment and rejection, and go through what you've been through. And you can use that, even if you know God, that can make you blame God and be like, God, if you were here, why did I go through this? If you were here, why? But that poem that you just, or poem or story, or whatever you want to call it, in that same story of a person that went through the darkest hours of his life, felt like they were alone, but then they look back and they realize, no, God never left me. He's been actually carrying me through it. Yeah. Like there's two different perspectives. And for you, it's like you could look back at your life and know, no, God, you didn't leave me. You carried me.
I would say there's people who know God and there's people who know of God. And those are two vastly different things. Yeah. I think, God is everywhere at all times, everywhere. I was reading a story. They discovered a galaxy or a black hole in a galaxy that's like 13.6 billion light years away from our galaxy. Now, I don't know, most of us can't even fathom 1 billion of anything, let alone 13.6 billion.
Yeah.
So the idea that God is the creator of all that is and ever was, and the breadth and depth and width of what that means, we can't comprehend on a mental level. But God is like an effervescent mist, like always present. And the way I say it is like, imagine if somebody tells you, if you walk into this room, in the air, there's a mist that if you just inhale it, it'll give you everything you want. It'll allow you to become the best version of yourself, fulfill your purpose, all that stuff. And you walk in that room and you hold your breath. When all you got to do is go, that's God, man. That's it. Like he's everywhere.
Yeah.
But most people are walking through life holding their breath.
Yeah.
And all they got to do is take it in. So when I say people are aware, it's people who know that there is a God.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
But they never allow God to get down on the inside of them.
Yeah.
I think that's because the image that people paint sometimes as this like dictator or this vengeful or whatever, however people want to like describe God, I think that causes people to hold their breath, not understanding that God is love.
That's it.
He would do nothing but bring peace to you. Yeah. That's all he can.
Yeah,
do.
you know, it's because we want to place our characteristics on God instead of saying that the characteristics we have are God's characteristics. We want to say that God has our characteristics. Yeah. So when we think about a sovereign person or a king sitting on the throne, we think of a man sitting on the throne. So we try to make that fit this construct of the creator of all that is and ever was. That don't go together. A man sitting on the throne does not create the universe. Yeah. We cannot comprehend God in a mental way. Yeah. So you can only consume him spiritually.
That's it.
You know, and so that's why I say when people who know of God, they usually know of God through the lens of how they mentally can comprehend God. Yeah. When you know God, have a relationship. It is unexplainable. Yeah. Like it's hard to explain what that even is and what it feels like until you have it.
Understand
because a wound is a wound, right? Yeah. Like
I think it's a lie when they say time heals all wounds. I don't think that's true at all. I think there's certain wounds.
Yeah, what are you doing with that time?
For sure.
You know what I mean? Because you can time can be passing. Sure. You can be sitting in your house depressed the whole time. Yeah. Or you can be out getting therapy and trying to better yourself the whole time.
So what did you do to heal throughout the process?
Yeah.
Like, what was your process?
Yeah. So first is acknowledging that something's there. When I told you for a long time, I didn't believe that depression was a real thing, right? And we ain't got time to be depressed. You got bills to be paid. Yeah. That's kind of the household I grew up in, right? But ultimately, for me, I think the reason I came to terms with it faster than some people, and it wasn't fast, but faster than some people do, because some people never come to terms with it. But I realized that the reason my mom had passed away early was because she dealt with anxiety and stress and all that stuff, right? Wow. And so I was aware of the detrimental effects that those things had on people. So when I saw them in my life, I'm like, yeah, this is probably what I'm dealing with. Now, I didn't immediately go seek a therapist, but I started doing things like writing, talking to people that I trust, getting in the Word. Meditation is a huge thing for me. So I just started to try to do things that were constructive to my well-being.
Okay. I want to get back to, there's people that right now are watching or listening, and they're having different, they're having a difficulty with getting from day to day. There's people right now that they're living for that one major thing to happen for them in their life in order to feel some type of fulfillment, you know, during your journey, you've had a lot of hits on the way. But I feel like there's so much wisdom that you've had because you've grown from every trial, every tribulation to be who you are today. I want you to speak to people because you could easily right now feel sorry for yourself. You know what I mean? To be a young man and you know, the people that you've lost and the things you've experienced, you know, you could easily be a victim right now of your situation.
Yeah.
You know, blame God for things. But man, you do
I
it.
did. I did.
And
I
you
went
did.
through it.
You did.
Yeah,
But what was the journey? Because I did too, you know,
Yeah.
but what was the journey for you to get out of that?
You know, I think it's important that you get proper perspective, man. And you know, I've got people that are really close to me who are dealing with some serious stuff on a daily basis. Physical issues, mental issues, emotional issues that make my situation pale in comparison.
Yeah.
Now, comparison is a thief of joy, but I think it is good sometimes to get around people, whether it's through volunteering,
That's good.
or just, you know, trying to expose yourself to people who are dealing with some real stuff out here. And I think that was constant in my life. Like I didn't have to look far to find individuals who were dealing with some stuff way worse than me.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I went through some trauma, but I also have all my mental capabilities.
Yeah.
Physically well. You know, I played sports and went to college and got a couple of degrees. Like, there's people, man, who want to do that stuff. I've been able to travel. Man, I got food on. I've never missed a meal. Now I've been like, I don't know where the next one coming from. I've had to like rub two nickels together to find, you know. But I never was at a place where I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it.
Yeah.
And it's people who do that, who go through that every day. I don't know how I'm gonna make it.
Yeah.
And so if you're conscious about getting yourself around those people, your perspective will start to change. You'll start to have I live by 4 tenets. Well, I live by a few, but 4 daily that are tattooed on me that I think about.
Yeah.
It's gratitude, compassion, love, and awareness. And I think the first one is gratitude. And you get gratitude by being around people who need more than you need, who have a more limited capacity than you have, right? That gives you gratitude, and that gratitude breeds a certain level of self-awareness about your own situation. You look around and be like, yeah, stuff ain't that bad.
Yeah.
From that awareness, you can have compassion for the next person that you come in contact with. Now, people say you should love everybody. I'm practical. I don't love everybody. I have compassion for everyone. Now, if I have compassion for you, and the more I get to know you through compassion, it can develop into love. But I think people get frustrated because, like, you tell me I'm supposed to love everybody. I don't love everybody. Or they act like they love everybody and they don't really don't.
Yeah.
What I think you should start from is a place of compassion.
Yeah.
And if you get that, then your relationship with that individual can grow. And it can grow into a place of love.
Yeah.
So those 4 things, if you can get some gratitude in your life, get some self-awareness in your life, get some compassion in your life, and then graduate to love, man, it'll change. It'll change everything.
You know, one of the things that stood out, I know we're going to be closing soon, but one of the things that stood out, what you said that I heard was it matters who you're hanging around with. It matters who are your people in your inner circle. You know, whatever situation that you are stuck in or fighting in or you need answers with, it really does matter with the people that you are closely associating yourself with. I mean, the scripture says bad company corrupts good character. It doesn't matter who you are. Maybe you're depressed because you hang around people that are constantly talking about their issues and problems. Maybe you need to get around some people that are having victories in their life, and that their faith rubs off on you, and now you're able to walk in faith. So I love what you said about the day to day. I love what you said about the gratitude and compassion, and the last two. Sorry.
Gratitude, awareness, compassion, and
Did I mess it
love.
up? So say it's
Gratitude, awareness, compassion, love.
Love.
Yeah.
And all those really matter about the people that you are surrounding yourself with.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know.
Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
I like those because one thing I think is very important not to put in that is happiness. I think people value being happy so much, and I think that's one of the reasons why people don't gravitate towards God sometimes because they think about the things they can't do. Like, God's going to tell me not to do this.
Oh man, I just heard somebody say this morning, dude. I heard this, that you looking at people who seemingly have it all together and they don't have God in their life. So you're like, well, why would I do that? Well, the first thing is that you're probably not seeing the entire manifestation of this person's life. You're seeing what they want to show you. And then, are you in a sprint or are you in a marathon? Because if you're in a sprint, go do whatever you want to do. Some people say, I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah.
If that's your theory, I can't change that theory. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to do both. I'm trying to be here as long as possible and have as much joy in my life as possible. And I think happiness and joy are byproducts of those four things. So when you seek happiness and joy daily, you will get it, but you get it through those things I'm talking about.
See, I think happiness and joy are different. I think happiness is circumstantial, as in something happens so you're happy. Joy is more just a feeling, an internal feeling. Like God brings joy to our life regardless of what we're going through.
Could be semantics,
having a relationship with God is joyful.
Yeah.
It's not, he ain't always going to tell me to do something that makes me happy. He may not care if I'm happy in that moment. He may need me to go do something. And then that's different to me.
You know, my mindset, and I love this conversation, but my mindset is that I don't think God puts us in situations that will deprive us from joy or happiness. What I think happens is people operate mostly on their own accord because they think they're hearing from God. But it's really you haven't moved out of your own way. So you're starting to do things that you're thinking mentally what you should do as it pertains to your relationship with God. But I said before, when God is on the inside of you, he knows who you are, why he designed you, and what he created you to do. So if you're moving in the way that God would have you to move, it shouldn't be uncomfortable, honestly. It's going to be uncomfortable when you're doing things that you haven't reconciled within yourself, that you're good enough to do, that you are created to do.
So fighting with God when you're
yes, it's Jacob, right? It's Jacob having a wrestling match.
For real. Man, I just wanted you to just kind of give a word to our audience, and I just would love for you to pray over them.
Yeah.
Just for people that you used something earlier. You said a word. I believe you said it. I believe you were Diogene, but one of you guys said the word stuck. People who feel stuck right now, and they're trying to figure out what to do. How do I get out of this situation? How do I get out of this mental breakdown, this emotional setback, this loss of a family member, or I lost my job, or this relationship is just not working out. My marriage is going through it. My child is just not getting it together, and I just cannot stop. My mind is just focused on that. How can you leave them with just some words of wisdom?
I think if people do these three things daily, consistently, it'll start you in the process of getting to where you want to get to, and it's not complicated.
Okay.
The first thing is, at the end of the day, you ask yourself, did I enrich myself today? Meaning, did I add value to my own life? What did I eat? What did I consume mentally? Who was I hanging around? Did I enrich myself? Meaning, I didn't hurt myself. I did the opposite.
Yes, sir.
Number two, who did I serve today? Did I serve someone today? Number three, did I add more to the world than I took away from it? And at the end of every day, if you can consistently, and I'm not saying you're going to be able to answer yes to those questions daily, but if you look over the end of the week, 4 days, you were able to say, yeah, I checked those boxes. Then maybe next week you did it 5 days. Maybe next week you did it 6 days. And before you know it, you're doing it every day. And I think if you can just forget all the other stuff right now, all the biblical principles and the religious stuff.
Practical.
Did I enrich myself today? Did I serve someone today? Did I add more to the world than I took away from it? And then see what happens after that.
Walk away with that. And I just encourage anybody listening to apply it. just to apply those words, to apply it. And I really believe you talked about happiness, you talked about joy. Well, that's it. That's how you step into a place of fulfillment. When it's not about you anymore, when we step out of the me mindset to getting into a place of how can I decrease to help other people increase, I think that is huge on everyday living, on everyday life, of getting out of the situations that we've been bound in, stuck in, and distracted by. So that's so powerful. Can you pray for people in the situations?
Dear God, we thank you for you above all things. We thank you for your presence in our life, things you've done that are seen, things that are unseen. We know that without you, nothing is possible. Through you, all things are possible. I ask for a special blessing upon these men who've put this platform together and are trying to help people build and understand their journey of life. Ask that they continue to be strengthened and renewed, that if they do meet with some frustration or some sort of obstacle, that you will help them overcome it. Everyone who's watching this, everyone under the sound of my voice, we ask that they continue to be strengthened and uplifted and understand that a relationship with you is critical and pivotal to their growth, and also not a difficult one. If they would just, like I said before, take a deep breath and allow you to come in and give them some insight and some guidance. And if we can just take some time to get out of our own way and understand that we sometimes only see the present moment and don't understand what the future holds, but that you see all things, and that if we just allow you to be our guide, we will arrive at that future destination from a place of peace and joy and happiness. And just asking continued blessing on people who are really in need of strength right now, really in need of courage right now, whether that be, again, emotional, physical, whatever health that they are in need of right now. Thank you for every day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Dope.
Yeah.
Man, listen, if this show resonated with you, we're doing something called listener support. We cannot continue to do this without your support. And so if you want to give into this, tithe into this, donate into this, any gift is truly grateful to be able to continually do this. Our editors, the team that we have, it would be a blessing for any support. So we love you guys. Thank you so much. Justin Groom's in the house. Woo! Woo! Thank you so much, brother. Diogene Brown. Pedro, my guy, doing everything today, holding it down. Last Supper Productions. We love you guys. I'm Keith Allen. And we in the house, man. Follow us on Instagram, In the Moment with KA. And, all other podcasts, all the platforms. Make sure to find us there. We love you guys. We'll see you on the next one.